Hello everybody, welcome to the United Stand. I'm Mark Goldbridge with your latest Manchester United news as Bruno Fernandes and Manchester United reportedly reject what is described as an astronomical offer for Bruno Fernandes again in January. This is coming in from Al Hilal in Saudi Arabia, and Portuguese reports are saying that Bruno Fernandes has turned down this offer. Obviously, has turned down this offer because he's still a Manchester United player. And I suppose it poses two big questions really. One, in the comments, Bruno Fernandes, would you at any point be looking to cash in on Bruno Fernandes? And two, will this actually be the way that Bruno Fernandes leaves Manchester United at some points? Because this is the second time. I remember having Fabrizio Romano on the show, and this is why, some people would say it's just a silly story from Portugal, which is sometimes what can happen. You can get silly stories from England, but I would suggest that there's probably an element of truth to this, because we know when we've had Fabrizio on the past and other people on in the past, they've mentioned last summer especially that there was approaches to numerous Manchester United players, and Bruno Fernandes was one of those. So an astronomical offer for somebody who's 29 years of age. He's going to be 30 in September, and the reasons that apparently Bruno's rejected it is, one, because he feels that he still has got unfinished business in European football, and also an enormous sense of loyalty to a club who are still in the midst of a major rebuilding process. And of course, he's the captain of that club. So, look, I don't think we're going to get a definitive line on this from Manchester United. We didn't get one in the summer. It came out through agents and journalists, etc., that there had been an inquiry for Bruno. And the fact that there has been again, or a story that there has been again, is very, very interesting. I'd love to know what the astronomical offer was, if it was there. My thoughts on this are that absolutely not. I wouldn't be looking to take that sort of money for Bruno now. As I said, the intriguing thing for me is, what would the offer actually be? Astronomical offer for Bruno Fernandes. I'm thinking 80 million, around 80 million quid. I think Bruno's value is probably around 50 to 60 in a real market. But obviously it's a lot more than that for a player you don't want to sell. So maybe it was around 80 million, and I'd despair at that. I mean, I'm a massive fan of Bruno. He's the captain of the team. I would genuinely despair if we'd sold him in January. It would be ridiculous. It's not doable. But I think the intriguing thing for me is that sometimes you put this story or offer in January because you want to go back in the summer when it's more doable. And in the summer, would Manchester United look at selling Bruno Fernandes to Saudi Arabia for 80 million quid? I would still hope not, to be honest with you. I think Bruno was linked to this last summer, and it was the same thing as what we're hearing now. He's dedicated to Manchester United and believes that European football is where he needs to be. But on the flip side of that, if United are not in the Champions League again this summer, and the offer comes in again, will Bruno or the club twitch? And what I mean by that is, would the club go, Bruno, what do you think? And then Bruno goes, oh, so you're thinking about it. So I think we need to stay firm on both sides of this. It sounds like Bruno's not interested, and I think the club just need to be not interested as well. And also, I don't think we're really, you look at Liverpool and potentially Van Dijk or probably Mo Salah go in the summer. That club has more stability, and that seems there's not going to be a mass exodus of players that need to go before Salah at Liverpool. Whereas at Manchester United, if you were looking to move on a Bruno Fernandes this summer, well, we were talking about Greenwood, Sancho this morning. Many people have spoken about Varane and Casemiro, Maguire and McTominay, Martial, Donny van der Beek. I mean, I'm up to 8 players already, and I think there's a couple more. Not to mention the Brandon Williams and everyone else of this world. So Man United potentially have probably got 10 more viable players to go this summer. And then you're thinking about Bruno as well. It does get to a point where it's too many. That's not to say, as Ralph Rangnick said, open heart surgery, but it does get to a point where it's too many. And I would say with Marcus Rashford as well. I mean, look, that's not to say Bruno Fernandes wouldn't leave in the summer. That's not to say Marcus Rashford won't leave in the summer. But what my point is that sometimes your team is quite stable, and you might consider a bit of a shock Bruno to Saudi Arabia if everyone's agreeable. But we've got so much going on this summer. I don't think we can afford for Bruno to go as well as all the other players that we're looking to go. But they're interested. It's the second time now we've had big stories of big offers for Bruno Fernandes. And I know I'm going to look at these comments after this video goes out, and I'm going to see people going, you know what, I like Bruno, I appreciate him, but for big money, it's a good idea. You could get a better player in who's 24, 25 and more consistent. Or I'll read, we've got Mason Mount. When Mason Mount's back, £80 million for Bruno, you've got Mason Mount as replacement, bring another player in and build for the future. So people might look at it like that. Of course they might. But for me, no. Bruno Fernandes is the captain of this team. I still think he's a really important player. I think he runs around the pitch everywhere because he's playing in a team that he doesn't trust, because it's not good enough. And I think that when we can get the right players in, we'll get more out of Bruno. I put my hands up and say this most chance created crap is a nonsense. And it's a nonsense we shouldn't focus on too much, because it's not a chance created when you pass it 5 yards to Rashford or Anthony, who cut inside and shoot from 40 yards. That's not a chance created. And I think there is a little bit of myth and bullshit around that. But he's a massively important player. I mean, I look at the player that came into the club, amazing. I was really excited to get him. And I still think that... So I think sometimes you buy a player, you bring a player in, and after 2, 3, 4 years, they become part of the furniture and you underappreciate them. I still think Bruno Fernandes is a massive player for us, but I think certain sections of the fan base have maybe become a little bit, accustomed, even bored with it. And I still think he's a massively important player for us. And unfortunately, I can't say that's proven by Saudi Arabia being interested, because not all the players they bring in are necessarily, the best players in the world. But there will be interest in him. I think if Bruno Fernandes was put up for sale by the club, there'd be interest from big clubs for Manchester United. So from Manchester United. But yeah, look, it's going to be an interesting summer. But I can't see this unless someone comes knocking on the door and says, "I want to go." But I think there will be. I think it's going to be an intriguing summer. As I say, you've got Casemiro, you've got Varane. There are the Rashford thing is going to be very interesting to monitor. And then you've got a bunch of players that we probably should be selling. And who are we going to bring in? I was watching some of the football this afternoon, and Michael Olise's gone off injured again after being injured quite a lot this season. Well, one long injury this season, and he's injured again. And you think, we talk about talent. We talk about profile, we talk about personality, we talk about what they're like off the field, but we've also got to talk about injury as well. I think there are so many factors that Ineos and the Director of Football and the CEO have got to take into account for Manchester United this summer. And I was thinking about this afternoon, I've got to bring it into the show. Injury is one of those things. Yeah, we don't want party boys. Yeah, we don't want people who aren't going to turn up for training. Yeah, we don't want people who aren't consistent. Yeah, we don't want those things. We want what we're getting at the moment with certain players in the team who've come in, like Rasmus and Mainu and Garnacho. But we also don't want injury prone. It's not like we haven't had our fingers burnt there, is it? I mean, look at Mason Mount. I mean, major injury in his first season, twice. Look at Eric Bailly. 3 separate injuries in the season before we bought him. We still bought him. Look at Phil Jones. Years of bad injuries. Give him a 5-year deal. We've got to learn on those things. And I think Elise looks like a good player, but I'm not desperate to sign him. If they do the homework and there's a major concern about him, whatever it is, don't do the deal. There'll be someone like Michael Elise somewhere in Europe or Brazil or something. So we've got to do what Man City did. And I think with Barada, it stands to good reason that we will do that. Liverpool was the big one for me. Nabil Fekir. They were going to buy him. I think there's even a picture of him in a Liverpool shirt for the photo shoot, and they pulled out of it because I was told it was because of a knee injury he'd had. He'd had the operation, but the way they'd operated on his knee wasn't the way that the Liverpool specialist said that people normally do it, and he couldn't guarantee that in 4 or 5 years' time, because of how they'd done that knee surgery, it wouldn't be a problem in a few years' time. So they pulled out of the deal. Would Man United pull out of a deal like that for that reason? No, of course we wouldn't. And also, when you look at Man City, they will pull out of a deal for a player that they want because the price goes beyond what they want to pay, or the wages go beyond what they want to pay. And United need to be like that. And we as a fan base need to be supportive of that, by the way, because I get the feeling that we get a bit obsessed. I've been there with Bruno. I was there with a little bit with Pogba as well, Rasmus. It's happened to me a few times, but I think we need to almost change as a fan base in a way as well, because if you become obsessed with signings, I want Michael Elise. I want Branthwaite. That's what I want. That's what I want. That's what I want. And then Man United might become part of that. I think they did become part of that. You know, the hype of a signing. We've seen the releases over the last few years about how Manchester United know that when they're linked to a player, it's massive PR and exposure for them as well. But actually, I think we do need to be a little bit like City have been, where if a player's price starts to go beyond what we want to pay, we walk away. If a player's got a bit of an injury issue, we walk away. If a player's got a bit of a personality issue, we walk away. I don't think United have walked away. The only deal I can think United have walked away from in the last few years, and it was a mistake, was Perisic. Mourinho wanted Perisic. We wouldn't pay 45 million. We would pay 40 million, and we walked away. That was probably the worst one to walk away from. We didn't walk away from Mount last year when Chelsea wanted 55 million for a player with 1 year left on his deal. We didn't walk away from Dortmund's ridiculous demands for Jadon Sancho. In fact, we went back again next summer. So we don't walk away. But I think we need to be a club that walks away when it comes to recruitment. And that's why, for me, I'm quite relaxed about the summer, because I don't think we need to be going obsession on this player or that player. I think we need to have 4 or 5 really good options, which is what Man City have clearly done in the past, and make sure we get the right player. Because, sometimes not getting a player then and waiting a bit and getting the right player is better for you over 5 years than getting it wrong over the first year, which is what we've done plenty of times before. But look, going back to the Bruno thing, absolutely not for me. Don't know what your thoughts are. Get in the comments. Would you take a huge offer from Bruno Fernandes? Apparently this came in again in January. It happened in the summer. If it came again in the summer, this summer, would you take it? I think that no, I don't think it's the time for Bruno to go. I think he's dedicated to the club as well. And also, I think there's a raft of players that need to go before he does. Which in itself is quite exciting, because will Ineos do that? I can think of 7, 8, 9 senior first team players that need to go. I don't mean like first team players that played against Wolves. I'm talking about the Martials. There's a lot of players that need to go. And if we clear those out, we've got to be bringing 5 in, new players. And who are they going to be? Euros in the summer as well, which will shorten the summer. You're straight on tour. So, look, we've got to be so efficient. I wouldn't be surprised if the director of football gets announced next week, because I just think, I feel like it's mid-January and actually it's the first week of February. And then next week, a week today, you're approaching the middle of February. And then suddenly it's the back end of February. And it's March. And then it's the international break. Oh, hello, April. And then it's the summer. So I wouldn't be surprised. I think we need to get movement. And the interesting and important thing about the director of football as well is not just recruitment. It's also removal. The director of football's got to decide what players are going as well. Those conversations need to happen, so it needs to happen quickly. But I think United in January basically said, we're not doing anything. We're not doing anything. We need to remove Sancho so he's playing football. We'll loan all these players out because they need football, but we're not buying, we're not selling, we're not doing anything because we need to take stock. And I think maybe United could have done a couple of things in January, but I think they've just gone, no, we're going to take the time and have a look at it. Get your comments in below. Match day tomorrow. Make sure you smash a like on the video and subscribe. Do not forget as well, those of you who are hardcore, who stay and watch all of the video, don't forget, it's match day tomorrow, and on Monday, it's something very special that you, the United Stand community, have made happen for me. And I hope you're going to enjoy it, because it's quite personal, but it's really big for the community in relation to how far we've come. Is it a new studio, Mark? Could it be Goldbridge announcing a new event? Is Goldbridge, what is it? But all I'm going to say is, you'd be a miserable bastard not to put a smile on your face when you see what we've achieved on Monday. Anyway, thanks everyone for watching. Take care. And we will have a little bit of a glimpse, a little bit of a spoiler glimpse for the members coming up. Maybe late tomorrow night, maybe early Monday morning. So members, keep an eye out. Everyone's going to see it by Monday lunchtime. Take care, everyone. Speak to you in a bit.